Imagine a project that pays tribute to Australia's heroes of a silent service. Imagine a project that enhances the prosperity of a small coastal township. Imagine developing one of Victoria's premier tourist attractions. Imagine using the latest state-of-the-art technology to turn back the hands of time to breathe life into an experience. Max Bryant did.
The project came into being in 1998 when Max Bryant approached the local federal member Peter Reith with the concept of the project. He had identified that a major tourist attraction was desperately needed to the Western Port region in the vicinity of Hastings. The intended project had to acknowledge the role HMAS Cerberus had played in the development of Hastings, and any facility had to be strong enough to attract visitors from the Port Phillip side of the peninsula, the recognised tourism trail. It became apparent the major attraction had to be nautical, with a naval connection. Now, with the intended target identified, it was time to go after a submarine, and being aware that the Navy was disposing of their ageing Oberon fleet, timing could not have been better. With Peter Reith's support, a submission was prepared and lodged with Defence Force Disposals. After a lengthy tender process, Western Port Oberon Association's tender was successful. Right Honourable Brendan Nelson MP, the Parliamentary Secretary for the Minister for Defence, came to Hastings to make the announcement that Western Port Oberon Association was the successful tender and Hastings had a submarine, HMAS Atama.
But I'm very proud, on behalf of the Australian Government, to return to you this magnificent submarine. Congratulations to you, Max.
During this period, we were successful in our submission for a grant of $500,000 under the Centenary of Federation program. These funds covered the purchase of the submarine and the relocation to Western Port.
The next phase was the daunting task of getting Atama from Fremantle to Hastings. By maritime law, she had to be towed. Much work was needed to be done, and the Australian Navy provided a great amount of technical and hands-on assistance in preparing Atama for her last seagoing adventure. The salvage tow from Perth to Hastings took 13 days, and during the afternoon of the 29th of April 2002, Atama entered Western Port Bay.
HMAS Atama is the last of her line. The last Oberon-class submarine built in the world and the last Oberon-class submarine to be decommissioned in the world, a significant ancestry. The submarine was later moved up the bay to its present location on her moorings at Crib Point. The Melbourne-based company Macroplan carried out a financial feasibility study into the viability of the project. Their conclusion, based on 50,000 visitations annually, indirectly the project would deliver $4.9 million back to the community. It is expected that in direct revenue the project would generate a return of $700,000 annually to be dispersed into community projects. The original proposed site for the project that Council had identified on Atama's arrival was found to be no longer available. Over a number of years, several sites were explored, the major criteria being the site adjacent to the sea to provide access to bring the submarine onto land. This was essential as we would be unable to maintain the boat whilst in the water, and Victoria now lacked the maritime infrastructure to dry dock such a vessel. Very early in the life of the project, a site on the eastern side of the Western Port Marina seawall was identified as the ideal Hastings site, but was unfortunately ruled out at the time as being unobtainable. After intense lobbying, the marina site was back on the drawing board. Our planning company tracked, prepared and submitted the planning submission, which was later approved by Matthew Guy, the former State Minister for Planning at that time. After all the hard work, we finally had a home for the project. Enclosed within the project brief document was the detailed requirements to ensure the building was showcased as a world-class attraction. It is envisaged the ground floor will be compressed cement sheet with the joints corked to appear like welds to represent steel plate. The first and second floors will be built out of containers. Each container, instead of the shipping company painted on the side of it, will be an individual sponsor of the project. The ground and first floor will house the museum, while the reduced area of the second floor will be for administration. The main features of the building will be a vast area to display the association's memorabilia and interactive exhibits, a cafe with indoor and outdoor seating, an 80-seat auditorium and a private members' function area. It is intended to work with local businesses when preparing large group bookings with overnight accommodation and restaurant facilities. As an interim measure, the Victorian Maritime Center has resided in the former BP Refinery Administration Building at Crib Point for a number of years. Located at 220 The Esplanade, the building uses an extensive display dedicated to the men and women who served this country in both the Merchant and Royal Australian Navies. Volunteers meet visitors and show them through the museum on open days, which at present are weekends between the hours of 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. Among the many tasks conducted by the volunteers is the painstaking task of cataloguing every item that is donated or loaned to the museum. It is a vastly time-consuming role, but a vitally necessary one to ensure that each item is allocated a number on receipt of the article. Its authenticity is clearly identified. The item photographed, then steps are taken to ensure the preservation of the article, which is then either placed on show or placed in storage. Of interest regarding Atama's history is the fact that on the 17th of October 2003, Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal came to Hastings to see her submarine that she launched in 1978. Her Royal Highness received a briefing on the project which outlined the new role her submarine Atama is to play within the Hastings community. The Princess Royal graciously accepted the role as patron of the now Victorian Maritime Center. No doubt, the major drawcard for the museum will be the submarine HMS Atama.
Unlike any other submarine display, Atama will be alive. Using world-first techniques and technologies, the visitor will be presented with an unparalleled virtual experience of action stations below. The visitors themselves become ghost crew as the submarine does battle with the enemy above. State-of-the-art multimedia displays located in the Interpretation Centre will fascinate and educate the visitor. These displays will focus on many facets of submarine operations and the people, past and present, who serve in them.
And everyone holds their breath waiting for the first explosion.
The other major exhibit will be the former Port Phillip Bay pilot ship, motor vessel Whyuna. The ship was built for the Port Phillip Sea Pilots in 1952 on the Clyde in Scotland. Commissioned into service in 1953, the Whyuna was a twin-screw diesel-electric pilot cutter. Some 63 metres in length, Whyuna served until November 1979. The system for getting pilots on and off the ships at sea was for the ship to stop dead in the water, with the wind and sea broad on the beam. The pilot cutter would round the ship's stern, manoeuvre into the lee and lower the 18-foot workboat, which with a crew of 2 transferred the pilots to and from their ships. In the early 1970s, with a view to the replacement of Whyuna, the decision was eventually made in favour of the launch system, and the new 13-metre ones were ordered to replace Whyuna. Whyuna joined the Launceston Maritime College as a training vessel in 1979. She serviced the growing needs for training of young would-be sailors in both the merchant and RAN navies, as well as the fishing industry. Eventually, mainly due to her propulsion system no longer bearing any resemblance to modern-day shipping, Whyuna was replaced by the present-day vessel Bluefin and put up for sale. Whyuna was then purchased by wealthy mining magnate Clive Palmer. Mr. Palmer eventually sold the ship. The new owner was the highly successful Perth-based businesswoman Gillian Swaby. Her intention was to convert the ship into one of the finest classic motor vessels. With the downturn in the world's economy, the conversion was abandoned. Recognising the historic value of the vessel, she was very keen to see the ship preserved to be enjoyed by future generations.
I'm confident that she's gone to the right people, and I'm exceptionally happy that I feel like she's coming home. I feel like I'm losing one of my children, but I know I'm giving her to a good family.
In July 2013, Western Port Oberon Association was donated the former Port Phillip pilot ship Wayuna. This vessel is an extremely valuable example of Victoria's maritime history and must be preserved. The 48 stateroom capacity of Wayuna is perfect to fill the role as a school camp for children from all over Australia. Wayuna waits in the mouth of the Tamar River, waiting for a berth in Melbourne so she can come home. Wayuna is one of Australia's most valuable examples of World War II shipping. The Victorian Maritime Center saved her from the breakers. After thousands of hours of work, Wayuna is now in her original colours. She is seaworthy in all respects. Thanks to volunteers, Wayuna set sail for the first time in 10 years. She steamed down the Tamar River, Tasmania to Inspection Head Wharf. Wayuna will make a triumphant return to Victoria once a suitable berth has been acquired. The impact on the local community from the project are immense. Here are just a few of the benefits. The project will provide 200 jobs within the local community. This is a community project run by the community for the community. The project is a not-for-profit project. The surplus profit will be returned to the community. Provided on-the-job training will be certified educational training for our young people. A 2002 feasibility study identified the project will generate $4.9 million annual for the community. Hastings will join a worldwide network of maritime museums which display submarines. Hastings, like Holbrook in New South Wales with the submarine Otway, will be identified as the home of the submarine Atama. With Atama as the main attraction, the project has the potential to attract in excess of 100,000 visitors. The former Minister for Tourism, Louise Asher, stated that the key to financial viability for the Western Port business community was the submarine project. There is an opportunity to partake in the many social activities, both national and international, which revolve around maritime history. By becoming a member of the Western Port Oberon Association, you can enjoy the social interaction and fellowship of being part of one of Victoria's premier tourist attractions. So come on, become a member now and help the community bring this fabulous project to fruition by joining the Western Port Oberon Association. This project will not succeed without your support.
Why do you think it's great? Because it'll bring tourism, make a few jobs.
I think it'd be wonderful, really, because, you know, to give a bit of a focus on Hastings. Doesn't get much of a focus tourist-wise.
It seems like a good idea, and we have actually been down to see the submarine. It's educational as well as, you know, exciting too. I mean, I'd like to go and see it, that's for sure. I'll be there.
This is the story of one country town, Holbrook, that welcomed its submarine Otway. This is a story of two towns and two submarines, sister vessels and sister towns. The towns are coupled by their submarines Otway and Atama. The town Holbrook has flourished beyond all odds due to its submarine Otway. Hastings has yet to allow its submarine Atama to continue her service to create community benefits. Holbrook embraced its submarine Otway and became an iconic Australian country town. Hastings needs to embrace Atama to become one of the premier tourist attractions in Victoria and Australia. This is how one very small country town, Holbrook, became famous. Hastings can do even better. This is the story.
The manager of the Shire, which was Holbrook Shire in those days, saw that the Otway was going to Japan for razor blades, and he suggested to the council today that it should be brought to Holbrook and used as a tourist attraction.
A lot of people thought it was a wild idea, but it was certainly doable, and council was supportive. The person concerned, Jeff Peace, who had connections with the Navy, he was made aware of a submarine that was being sent to scrap, and it was just a very short time away from being sent out to the scrapyard, the scrap heap, and he was able to secure this submarine.
And local businesses had the foresight of getting their heads together, and they could see the future of this being very successful, and they started the money collecting. I think they got up to about 100,000 and the money ran out. Luckily, Mrs. Holbrook, who was now 102 years old, Norman Holbrook's wife, came to the party and gave us a very generous cheque which got us over the bridge, and we were able to complete the project.
And council has always and will always, certainly whilst I'm around, be supportive of this project, because I think this project, the submarine project, gives this town another identity. And I think that's the thing that really is doing it for our town here, for Holbrook. It's giving it an identity, that this is the town with the submarine in the main street. And that's the thing that people nearly always remember when you mention Holbrook.
It's the submarine, well, it's just always, there's always people there. Busloads of kids come in Monday and Friday, climb all over the submarine. They stop and have their morning tea in the town. It's just, yeah, fantastic. Huge, huge for the town. Fantastic. We arrived in town and were looking around for some little business to put me in, to keep me busy. And there was a little transportable building next to the submarine, and my hubby said, location, it was on the market, let's buy that, we could do things with this. And over the years, we've just gone from strength to strength, watching all the people come and go, walk all over that submarine. It's just been a fantastic tourist attraction. It's been brilliant.
Look, I think with the advent of the bypass of the town, which was a pretty big event and a pretty big thing to happen to this town, because we were the last town on the Hume Highway to be bypassed, and always the traffic was coming past, oh, there's that submarine. But certainly now, there are many, many people who want to come off the highway because of the submarine. And they just are marvelling at why it is here, the whole story of the submarine. And that is still continuing today.
We have approximately around about the 10,000 mark who come through the door on an annual basis. But the actual submarine park would be hundreds of thousands.
Council's been working, supporting the project with landscaping, maintenance, electricity, supporting this museum here and maintaining something for people to have a look at when they come into town. It's vitally important, vitally important. And I think we keep adding to what's here too, and we're adding value all the time. And I think for repeat visitors, I think that's important, that there is extra value coming on all the time. So something that you might need to consider.
I would urge the local government and the state government and the people of Hastings to get behind this project. The Atama is going to be a great tourist attraction and a great money maker for local businesses. Believe you me, you will not regret getting behind this project.
Hastings people, get behind this. You won't regret it. I've watched this grow for 12 years and it's been brilliant for our town. It could be brilliant for your town too.
The Shire Council, this Mornington Shire, you've got a winner here that's going to attract so many people. So many people are going to come down to see that submarine. I don't know why Holbrook should have been the submarine base for Australia so far in there. But however, people do want to see these boats. Just rather than sinking things and getting rid of them, they can be utilised like Max Bryant and his committee have done here. I just think it's terrific. The whole of the Mornington Peninsula are going to benefit by this project. I wish you well. I won't be able to help you much longer. I'm bailing out in June. By the way, I'm having more farewells than Nellie Melba.
For further information, visit www.maritimecentre.com.au.